I was about to ask the same question itself, right? Should they be shipping out solutions to problems as fast as they can, or just so yeah, that's
No.
how
So
it is.
once you decide I'm going to build it, then get it out quickly as possible, right?
Uh-huh.
If you're really solving a painful problem,
Mm-hmm.
people will use it even if it's partly functional, even if it looks horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know there's a guy, he's like one of the old gangsters of the original gangsters of the startup scene. He's a guy Kawasaki.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy, super quotable. He had a couple of quotes like, if you don't look back at version 1.0 of your app or your website and cringe at how primitive it was, you waited too long to ship.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Yollab Central. Today I have with me Andrew. So Andrew, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation today?
If they've got a startup, like this is everything they're ever going to need to know about building a startup and doing it right. Like 30 minutes, we're done. They're going to be awesome.
Okay.
So,
So, I see the entrepreneur's Odyssey on the back of you. So, where does this Odyssey start? So, let's start from the bottom
oh,
itself.
you notice the subtle branding?
Of course, I did. Of
Yeah, that's my book. We'll talk about that later, I hope.
course.
So my Odyssey, right? So I started out, I graduated business school in 1995. I know it's a long time ago.
Mhm.
And like, I actually remember Netscape. That's how long ago it was. But, I left business school. I went to consulting because this whole startup hustle thing wasn't a thing yet, right?
Mhm.
So, I could be an investment banker. I could be a consultant. Well, I didn't want to be an investment banker. So, boom, I'm a consultant. I
Yeah.
did that for 4 years. And my last project, we were suddenly using this interwebs thing to like merge data before a big merger between British Petroleum and Amoco.
Yeah.
And it was a way to do that without the teams becoming contaminated by learning competitive data. But
Hmm.
my first time playing with kind of the really interesting power of the internet that was more than just like government data sets that you could download. And I remember thinking, that's it, right? That's what I want to do. Didn't exist 4 years ago. Couldn't do it then. It does now. I'm done consulting, right? So I quit, moved back to New York, uh, take a brief, like they call it consultant detox job, like 9 months with a large company, like,
Yeah.
learning a little bit more about the internet on their dollar. And then I'm at my first startup within a year.
Hmm. Okay. Now, you saw a problem and then you went on to decide that, yeah, I want to solve this problem, right? So, but then you also took the gap to actually understand how the business is working. So, I mean, obviously, as business consultants, we love to go out there,
Mhm.
solve a few problems on the client's dollar, and then we say that, yeah, this is a problem that we've solved for you. But then when it comes to solving it ourselves, there is something extra that needs to be done. So, for anybody out there, what is that extra that you figured out?
Whew, okay, so I made tons of mistakes.
Hmm.
Tons of mistakes in my first startup, tons of mistakes in my second startup. The
Yeah.
best thing I can say is that none of the mistakes I made in my first startup killed the company. Right. So it's okay to make mistakes. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
In fact, you should experiment a lot. The biggest thing that was kind of a shock to me when I went from being a consultant to being one of the three founders of this company was just, speed and flexibility. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm used to like these big Fortune 100 companies. You have to have like things really kind of nailed down. And like I remember on one of the projects, it was like, should we buy this company for $40 a share or $45 a share? And, the answer was, it's selling for $30 a share. Just buy the effing company already. It's like, no, which one is it? So we spent 6 more months working on it.
Uh-huh.
And then like the stock price rose to $35 a share and they ended up spending tons more money,
Hmm.
not only on our consulting, but also just because they waited. But
Yeah.
now they knew it was $42.75 was the right number. So I'm like, okay, you guys are nuts. But like, even after I left that,
Hmm.
I had this kind of like, okay, we're a big company. We need to like rationalize. So I remember very well in my first startup, it was probably about 2 years in. And like the salespeople were selling like all different packages. Like, this one would sell for $8 a person. This was 7.99. This was 7.95, or it would be like $8 or $5, but this one would be $8 or $4. So we had like 100 clients and we had like 300 different pricing plans. I'm trying to like simplify it and rationalize it And at one point, like my co-founder, the CEO, kind of pulls me into them and closes the door. It's like, and you don't get it, right? This stage in the company, we just need to say yes, right?
Okay.
Whatever they want, just freaking say yes,
Uh-huh.
get the revenue, learn what works. In 2 years, if you want to rationalize and simplify, go right ahead.
Mhm.
And he was totally right. I was wrong. I was thinking big company. I was thinking complexity. I was thinking about,
Yeah.
let's, look at it from an operations perspective.
Yeah.
When you're early on, like you're testing everything. Like you just got to make it work, right?
Hmm.
It could be ugly. It can be seat of the pants. It could be like partially functional, but
Hmm.
it's got to be something that's good enough that people want to use it. And you got to survive long enough to get to the point where you can, start doing the kind of stuff I was doing.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, right, this attitude of just say yes to whatever comes your way. Okay. Now, I was just seeing this discussion happen on LinkedIn, right? That the idea that you say yes to every offer that comes your way might not actually work every time. I mean, you might just
Mm.
be spreading your legs too far everywhere, trying to be in every boat at every time, right? Which might.
Yeah. So I was too far in the other direction,
Mhm.
right? But there are entrepreneurs that will go too far, into the say yes to everything because you only have so much time.
Mhm.
You only have so much time during the
Yeah.
day, and there are a lot of conversations which might feel to you like, oh, this is really big, but it doesn't. It's not the same to the other party. So I'll give you an example. It's buried around two-thirds of the way through the book. Just for context, right? The book is written like a novel, like a piece of fiction, but it's about a fictional startup, and it takes it everywhere from like idea all the way through to when they've got their first round of financing.
Mhm.
Right? So there's a fictional founder, and there's a an angel investor who becomes their mentor, who's partly me, partly another guy that I've known really well. So at one point in the book, the founder is approached by a corporate, like a corporate venture fund, and they're like, "Oh, can you build this? Can you build that?" And he's, he's excited. I like this. And he starts spinning his wheels on it, and his mentor's like, "Settle down there, right? Like, you are just you. They have a whole department doing this. There's a guy there whose entire job is just to explore these things." Right. So he's like, would you do X? Would you do Y? You're thinking, oh, you're going to get a contract if you do it. He's just, I don't want to know if you can. And if you can, then you'll start talking to people inside the company. And they might be like, yeah, I don't really need that. Right. So
Mhm.
you could end up like, you say yes to all that, spin your wheels, do all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And man, I don't really need anything on there. And so, there are like tips and tricks to decide, like, is this really worth your time?
Mhm.
And since I promised like your audience like everything they need to know, I'll give them one of those tips and tricks, right? So you might decide that this is not on your regular dev schedule, right? If you were this person never came to you, you would be building feature A, B, C, and D, and this is feature like G.
Okay.
So you go to them and you say, "Hey, Aditya, listen, that's really awesome. What you want is on our dev schedule. We weren't going to get to that until another 15 months from now.
Mhm.
But we'd really love to work with you. It's a great opportunity. I'm happy to accelerate that on my dev schedule, but to do that, I'm going to have to hire a new developer or contract a new developer. And that's going to cost me roughly X. Would you, as part of co-developing this feature for your use case, would you be willing to
Mhm.
advance that as part of the contract? Or however, or make an investment, however you want to do it. Bottom line is, if they're not willing to write you the check for that amount of money that would take you to front load it, they may not be that serious. So it
Okay.
may be a little bit more like they're not that serious. You can slow walk them. You can
Mhm.
kind of keep them involved and interested, but don't change your priorities just yet.
All right. So now, if we try to talk about your book itself, right? You mentioned that it's like a journey itself, starting from
Mhm.
ground up, and then a mentor joins in. So this mentor that we're talking about, somebody that you've created, like you, and a little more that you would like to have in yourself.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, obviously, there are a lot of entrepreneurs going out there looking for mentors, not just looking for VCs who want to invest just for the money, but then also invest in them as people
Hmm.
and something of that sort. So, what kind of qualities? Is it just expertise, or is there an alignment that you should be looking for, right? And something that you were looking for when you went out there?
Yeah, so listen, there's got to be a good fit, right? They have to be the kind of person that you really enjoy spending time with. They don't have to be your best buddy, but they have to be someone that you respect and like you're going to spend hours and hours of your life together.
Yeah.
You should be like comfortable. Like we used to say as a consultant, like, would you be okay being stuck in an airport with this person
Yeah.
for 8 hours?
Yeah.
So they have to hit that kind of criteria. They also have to know what they're talking about. There's a lot of BS out there. A
Hmm.
lot of people who like have never really done it, but will talk with absolute confidence as if they have.
Yeah.
So you gotta be a little careful about that. Sometimes an angel investor is the best mentor, right?
Hmm.
Because they're physically, like financially and emotionally invested in your
Yeah.
startup. So, they're really there for you that way through
Hmm.
thick and thin. They really do care on a number of levels. Doesn't always have to be. Right? It could be a founder that's, a couple of steps ahead in the process or
Hmm.
exited already. They like what you're doing. They've got skills that are relevant to what you're doing.
Hmm.
That's a great type of mentor. The
Yeah.
kinds of people who are usually not good mentors, and with all due respect to them, they're very good at other things they do, but they are probably not good mentors for a startup, unless in a prior life they did a startup.
Right.
Uh, and I mean that like not like literally reincarnated. I mean, they have to remember it. I
Yeah.
mean, earlier in their career. Um, Lawyers generally are not. Uh, uh, Service providers, whether they're, accountants or developers who've never done it on their own, people who've only been in corporate, they're
Hmm.
generally not good mentors. They might be good for specific advice, but
Hmm.
not your overall founder mentor. And here's why. Uh, when you are starting a startup,
Hmm.
you are all in. It's all
Yeah.
consuming. Everything that you see
Yes.
through the lens of how does it help me with the startup? You could be taking your kid to the park and he's playing soccer, and you're talking to the other dads on the bench, and you're thinking, how can they help me with the startup? Not because you're like mercenary that way, but it's
Mhm.
always on your mind.
Yes.
And you know that like you have so much money in the bank account that
Hmm.
you need to get to revenue to cash flow positive or to your next
Yes.
round of financing
Hmm.
before you run out. Like
Hmm.
the analogy is you've jumped off a cliff and you need to build a plane before you hit the bottom.
Yeah.
Like people who have regular jobs that get paid no matter what, I mean, unless they really screw up and get fired, like it's a different, if they haven't been there, if they haven't
Yeah.
watched their bank account go down every month because they're building something, they
Yeah.
don't get that same type of urgency.
Hmm.
And instead, if they've been in a corporate job or a lawyer where everything has to be nailed down, right? 99 times out of 100, nobody cares about all those clauses in the contract. But the one time things go south and there's litigation, God help them if they didn't have that paragraph perfectly drafted on
Yeah.
their reps and warranties.
Hmm.
So the people who are not startup founders are driven to a higher level of polish and perfection before they do things,
Yeah.
a lower appreciation for the cost of time.
Hmm.
So they will give you advice that is attuned to their sensibilities and their work experience. They
Hmm.
will not necessarily have the right instincts to
Yeah.
advise a founder. Now,
Right.
if you want to go ask them like, hey, lawyer, you do a lot of these investment rounds. What's a typical kind of valuation for a startup at my stage? Or, is
Yeah.
1x liquidation preference normal these days?
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Hmm.
That's their strike zone. But, should I send this pitch out now or should I spend some more time polishing it? That's not their thing.
Hmm. Okay. Now, since we're talking about this, just shipping out features, right? I mean, talking about service providers and people, them talking about polishing before delivering, right? Uh, for the founder, it is more about shipping out features as fast as possible, as much as I understand. I mean, you see a problem, you solve it. If it works, you tell the customer that this works. If you want, you can
Hmm.
use it. Something of that sort, right? Uh,
Yeah. Can I tweak that a little bit? Because you're right, but I want to just
yeah,
change one
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not shipping features. It's rapidly experimenting. So one of the mistakes that founders make a lot is they
Yeah.
throw features at a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it in a vacuum. So,
Okay.
I say don't just do something, stand there for a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your customers first. So one of the really powerful techniques, and this is the first chapter 3 or 4 of the book, is called the index card app. Have you ever heard of the technique?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say you're building an app. So the way I did my first one is well, it was a website, not an app. That's how long ago it was. Is we came up, we spec'd up the whole thing. We're going to build this, we're going to build that, and we're going to build this other thing. And then internally, we decided we'll build this first, then that, then this, and then we went out and we started to build it. And then like when all of a sudden we had everything we needed, we like open it up to the world and then see what happened.
Yeah.
Um, guess what? Like a lot of the features we built, no one used, no one cared
Yeah.
about. And the problem with that is we felt like the only way we could figure out if the market wanted was to build it. And that's not always the case. So here's an alternative. Go out to the store, buy a pack of index cards. 4 by 6 inch index cards,
Mm-hmm.
what's that, like 9 by 14 centimeters. I have no idea. But
Mm-hmm.
regular index cards,
Yeah.
it'll cost you $5. Then go borrow a pen from someone, right? That'll be $0. Just steal their pen. And sketch out on the index card what each page of your app looks like or your website looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It could be crude. Don't worry about aesthetics. It just needs to be clear. Like, here's a button. The button says next, whatever it might be. Do that for a good chunk of the site that you're planning on building or the app that you're trying to build. And then set up one-on-one meetings with your target customer, 20, 30, 40 customers. In
Mm-hmm.
the book, it's a call recording app, and the core customer that they're looking to experiment with are real estate agents because they're always on the go. So what the character does is there's all these index cards, and he sits down across from a real estate agent and says, "Listen, Aditya, here's what I want to do. Like, I want you to test my app. I've mocked it up on these index cards. Um, if you were actually downloading the app, I wouldn't be there to answer your questions. So
Yeah.
don't ask me questions. Just interact with it as if it were your own phone, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you want to press a button, touch the card.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what you do, I'll give you a different screen. The
Yeah.
only thing I want you to do differently is verbalize what you're thinking because I
Okay.
can't read your mind. So if you're looking at it, like, gee, I'm not sure if this does what I think it is, but let's see. Just say that out loud so I know.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you do is, as the founder, you sit there and you just give them the cards, right? You bite your tongue. You don't say anything and watch what they do. And then at the end, when they're done with like that test, then you can come out of character and you can ask them questions like, gee, I noticed you didn't go to any of this part of the app. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why didn't you?
Yeah.
And you'll learn things like, because I didn't need that, right?
Okay.
Or, it seemed interesting, but I'm afraid that like, privacy issues, right? I don't want to expose my
Yeah.
data that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just didn't see that, right? So what is that? One, unnecessary, cut it. It's not minimal viable product.
Yeah.
Two, it might be useful, but you've got to go address some blocker issues like concerns
Yeah.
about privacy. Or
Mm-hmm.
number three, like it's something that you built, but the UX is bad and you need to fix it, or else no one will know how awesome it is.
Yeah.
And you do that with 20, 30 people, those messages come through loud and clear, and it cost you a couple hours of your time and less than $5.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that beat 6 months of like, heads
Of
down
course.
coding?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that definitely. I was about to ask the same question itself, right? Should they be shipping out solutions to problems as fast as they can, or just so yeah, that's
No.
how
So
it
once
is.
you decide,
Mhm.
I'm going to build it, then get it out quickly as possible,
Uh-huh.
right? If you're really solving a painful problem,
Hmm.
people will use it even if it's partly functional, even if it looks horrible.
Hmm.
Do you know there's a guy, he's like one of the old gangsters of the original gangsters of the startup scene. He's a Guy Kawasaki.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy, super quotable. He had a couple of quotes like, if you don't look back at version 1.0 of your app or your website and cringe at how primitive it was, you waited too long to ship.
Okay. All right. Now, there's a lot of okay, now you mentioned that there are a lot of people who just speak out so confidently that you just believe that they're good at what they do, right? Um, so these coaches, as they like to call themselves, right? How does one actually, I mean, trying to do all the background checks that you want to do with them, right? Before you go and ask them something. Obviously,
Mhm.
you must have asked somebody because they look so confident. You ask them something, but then their answer is all fluff. So you try to do the background check, but you're not able to do that. How do you actually try to find the gold coin in I don't know, in a haystack?
So, it's hard across the board. Like picking a doctor too is kind of hard. Like, how do you
Yeah.
know? Like, did I take the pill? Did it make me better? Would I have gotten better anyway? So
Yeah.
it's super hard. It's actually easier to vet a startup mentor in some ways than it is to vet the doctor. So, let's take it from the top, right? There's all-purpose mentorship and coaching
Yeah.
where that's what matters. And then there's specific advice.
Yes.
So the general principle is sort of the same, right? What are you trying to get from this person? What do you want to learn from the person? If it's very specific domain advice, like, what are acceptable terms in a VC round of this time for an
Mhm.
industry like mine, then great. You want to find people who have a lot of experience with that, like lawyers, other VCs that have done a lot of
Yeah.
investments, and you talk to as many of them as possible. And if it looks like, based on their LinkedIn profile, and they say they're in 30 startups, you go on Crunchbase or Mattermark, and there's 30 startups that they're invested
Yeah.
in. Maybe you call a few of them and say, hey Bob, are you really a portfolio company of XYZ Corp? Oh, okay, great, good. Um, then you're good to go. But it's a higher level if you're dealing with someone who you want to be like your person, your
Mhm.
coach, like the person that's your mentor.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure they have those skills. If you're doing a startup, you want someone who's done a startup. And if you're doing a certain type of startup, ideally they did a similar type of startup.
Mhm.
So if somebody is doing a direct to consumer, like, e-commerce site, I've done a little bit of that, but it's been many, many years. Like I may not be the best guy for that. But if
Mhm.
they're doing something that's business to business and it's in like the real estate space or the construction space, like that's where I've been for the past 7 years. So
Mhm.
I could be your guy.
Mhm.
If you're doing something in ad tech, I'm not your guy. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
So you want to look for what they've done, and to the extent that you can vet that they've actually done that. Like, was there an app like this? Was there a press release when it was sold?
Mhm.
Was it more than just a press release from them? Like, was it like the
Yeah.
acquirer that actually
Definitely.
did
Yeah.
it? So you can do it, and in a worst case scenario, like talk to people, right? It's not that horrible a thing. You talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you say you did the startup. Can I talk to your co-founders?
Mhm.
Yeah, you say you raised $100 million. Can I talk to the VC funds that you worked with?
Mhm.
And if they get kind of like, oh, you don't trust me, I'm like, well, now I don't.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so now let's get back to what you've written just recently. So if you can just share what the Entrepreneur's Odyssey is all about.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny actually. Like so many people in the world, I have a startup that I'm working on the side. So there's a fictionalized, simplified version of the startup, which is a startup in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And the founder, his name is Marcus. He starts off as a solo founder, and he goes to like these pitch events in the evening. This one happens to be in a law firm, and it's got like, if you've ever been to one of them, it has like a very specific vibe to it, right?
Uh-huh.
They got a lot of people in the room, some of whom are like entrepreneurs. They're never going to make it. There's a lot of service providers.
Yeah.
Of the panel, it's usually a very junior guy at the VC fund.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get someone who's a little bit more experienced. And in this case, they happen to have as a last minute substitute a kind of very active angel investor who was based on a guy, unfortunately, he passed, but who was one of the early like fixtures of the New York angel investing scene for many years. By the way, inside baseball, one of the the mentor's name is Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that it's based on, at least in part, his name was John Asen.
Okay.
So there's a couple of Easter eggs like that.
Okay.
Anyway, the founder's pitch, Marcus's pitch is kind of crappy,
Hmm.
but Jason sees something in it, and then he ends up becoming his mentor, and then he talks him through everything from the index card app, to prove like should
Yeah.
he go B2C or should he go to B2B on his, on this call recording app venture, all the way through to like vetting a potential co-founder, which one was not a good fit, which was a good fit,
Hmm.
and taking him through all the steps that he needs to do that ultimately build up to like an ideal startup deck, right? Your problem solution slides, your market size slides. These are all things that Marcus has to learn how to do. And as much as possible, I've embedded these in like memorable everyday experiences. So like, I'll give you an example. So Marcus is on the subway in New York with his son, taking him to school.
Hmm.
And his son says, "Man, if I owned the subway, I'd be rich." And it's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Wow, everyone takes the subway." So, they got a couple of stops. So Marcus is like, "Well, it's kind of cool for the same $2.90 that we paid to go from here, like 5 stops to your school, we could go all the way to Coney Island." And
Yeah.
his son's like, "No way, Dad, that sucks. If you go further, you got to pay more." So they end up launching into a pretty sophisticated discussion about pricing models.
Yeah.
Pay as you go, pay all, freemium models, right? Can you give like 2 free rides a day to students, make them pay for more?
Yeah.
Even like share of savings, right? If you can sell your car and not have to have that anymore. Like Marcus's son's like, "I want a part of your car sale now that you don't have to park, insurance anymore." So, that's what I try to do because stories are memorable, right? Stories are things that like stick with us, rather than like a boring list of different models. So
Yeah.
I've tried to do as much as possible, like all that through these kind of, real day in the life kind of normal vignettes.
Okay. So thank you so much, Andrew. I mean, this conversation just went from starting a startup to, I don't know, to a book that's about starting a startup and the whole journey itself, and then finding a good mentor. So yeah, we went in pretty different directions. So thank you for that. And yeah, before we close, where can people get in touch with you? How can they know more about you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have a personal website. Not super sophisticated, but it's Andrew, the letter B as in boy, Ackerman. My middle name's Benjamin, that's why. AndrewBAckerman.com. Find out a little bit more about me if you want to. You can find out where to buy the book. Or if it's like, "Hey, Andrew, I don't care about you at all. You're boring, but the book's kind of interesting." Just go to Amazon. It's there, of course. Everything in the world is on Amazon. If you have a startup and it's in like the real estate or construction sector, like I'm interested, it's what I do. You can send me an email. My contact info is on the website. The one thing I ask is please don't just link to me on LinkedIn blindly. I get
Mhm.
a lot of that.
Okay.
I'm not that hard to find otherwise. Email me or message me some other way first.
Mhm.
And if it's good, if it's interesting, so I'll ask for your deck. Or I may send it to like, one of my colleagues in your area or your area of expertise if it's not for me personal. That's
Okay.
it. I'm easy. I'm easy to reach.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I mean, I loved your candor and then how you've uh, put stories into place so that people can remember it, right? So, thank you so much for joining in on this episode. To the audience who's been watching and listening, don't forget to leave a like if you liked what we talked about. And then the comment section is open for questions, suggestions, any perspectives you want to add to whatever we discussed. And don't forget to subscribe before you close the window itself. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining. Thank you,
Thanks
Andrew.
for having me. This was fun.